Out on the open prairie of eastern South Dakota, along a lonely stretch of Interstate 90, an enormous rust-colored bull rears its head 60 feet into the sky, tall as the carved faces of Mount Rushmore, welded together from 25 tons of heavy steel. Scattered in the grass around it stand dozens of strange and wonderful metal creatures, dragons and fish and towering figures rising out of the plains where you least expect them. It is one of the most surprising sights on the American road, a giant homemade dream forged from scrap iron. Welcome to Porter Sculpture Park. We are on the open prairie of eastern South Dakota, along Interstate 90 near the small town of Montrose, about 25 miles west of Sioux Falls. Here the land rolls away flat and golden in every direction under an immense sky, a country of tall grass, wind, and distant grain elevators. It is the kind of wide, empty place where a traveler might drive for an hour with nothing but the horizon for company, which makes what waits beside the highway all the more astonishing. The park sits on a quiet stretch of Interstate 90, one of the great highways that runs clear across the northern plains. Travelers crossing this vast, sparse country catch a glimpse of something rising from the grass, a dark shape that grows and sharpens into an unmistakable bull, and many pull off simply because they cannot quite believe their eyes. This is the classic magic of the American road, a strange and singular wonder appearing out of nowhere between the fields. All of it is the vision of one man, a South Dakota sculptor named Wayne Porter. He grew up on this prairie and once worked the land as a sheep rancher, shaping metal in his spare hours until the art took over his life. Piece by piece, over many years, he raised an entire garden of sculpture from the soil of his home country. What stands here is deeply personal, the life work of a single imagination given form in iron and steel. Porter is a self-taught blacksmith and welder, a maker who learned his craft at the forge and the welding torch rather than in any studio. In the heat and spark of the fire, he bent and joined rough metal into living shapes, teaching himself as he went. There is something old and elemental in this, the ancient trade of the smith who hammers raw iron into whatever the mind can picture, carried on alone at the edge of the Great Plains. And the material of this dream was whatever the prairie could spare. For decades, Porter gathered iron and scrap steel, old farm machinery, discarded tools, and heavy railroad tie plates, and gave the cast-off metal a second life. Rust and ruin became wings and scales and horns. Every sculpture carries the memory of the fields and rail lines it came from, transformed by patient labor into something no one had ever seen before. At the center of it all towers the Great Bull Head, the landmark that draws travelers off the road. It rises a full 60 feet, as tall as a many-storied building and equal in size to the giant heads carved on Mount Rushmore. It took 3 years to build and weighs some 25 tons of welded steel. To stand beneath it and look up into that vast metal face, framed against the endless sky, is to feel wonderfully small before one man's ambition. Beyond the bull, the grass is alive with more than 60 other sculptures spread across 10 acres of open prairie. They stand and lean and reach in every direction, whimsical and strange, and sometimes haunting, each one a surprise as you come upon it. Walking among them feels like wandering through the contents of a single vivid dream, a whole world of metal figures set loose upon the plains beneath the moving sky. Here a great dragon coils and bares its welded teeth. There a school of fish seems to swim through the grass, and birds spread iron wings against the wind. Porter fills his prairie with a menagerie of creatures real and imagined, drawn from myth and memory and pure invention. Fashioned from hard, unyielding steel, they somehow feel full of motion and mischief, as if they might stir the moment your back is turned. Among the animals rise strange human forms, giant heads and towering figures with expressions solemn, comic, or unsettling. Some seem to gaze out across the plains in thought, others grin or grimace at the passing traveler. They give the park a curious, dreamlike weight, as though a company of silent iron giants had gathered on the grass to keep watch over this lonely corner of the prairie. Many of the sculptures carry words as well as shapes. Porter is a writer too, and he sets his own poems and sayings beside his creatures, some playful and funny, others sharp and pointed, musing on life, death, and the follies of the world. To wander the park is to read as much as to look, each piece offering a small verse or joke or barb, the private thoughts of the artist scattered openly across his field. Taken together, this is folk art on an enormous scale. It belongs to no museum and follows no movement, a homemade masterpiece raised by one determined maker with a torch, a pile of scrap, and a boundless imagination. There is nothing polished or academic about it. Its power comes from exactly that, the sincerity of a personal vision built by hand, monumental and unschooled, rising straight out of the ground it was born on. Part of the wonder is simply where it stands. In a landscape this open and this quiet, a place of grain and grass and few people, to come upon a 60-foot bull and a field of dragons is to feel the ordinary world tip pleasantly on its side. The emptiness all around only sharpens the marvel. There are no crowds, no city, only the wind, the highway, and this astonishing garden of iron alone with the sky. Word of the place has traveled far. Opened at the turn of the millennium, the park has grown into one of the most beloved roadside attractions in the country, even named among the very best in the land by Time magazine. Yet it remains humble and unhurried, a family-run stop where curious travelers wander the grass at their own pace, then return to the highway carrying the memory of something they will never see anywhere else. Porter Sculpture Park belongs to a great American tradition, the roadside marvel. The country's back highways are full of such surprises, strange and heartfelt monuments raised by dreamers far from any spotlight, waiting to delight whoever happens by. This one, out on the South Dakota Prairie, is among the finest of them all, proof of how much wonder a single person can conjure from cast-off metal and open sky. A giant bull of steel on the open plains, a field of dragons and fish and silent iron giants, and the tireless dream of one prairie sculptor made real. Porter Sculpture Park is the kind of place that reminds you to keep your eyes on the horizon, because the finest surprises often wait where you least expect them. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.